To access the Operations dashboard, click Operations from the left-hand menu. On the Operations dashboard, you'll see an overview for the date range. For the screen that we have here, we have May 1st to May 2nd. This screen is going to show us each trip and how all of our resources are used, separated by each section. As you can see, we have all of the trips listed at the top, resources used, employees scheduled, and the travelers for each of our trips. The period view has the most functionality for operations. You can select the time frame that you'd like to view. In this case, we're going to use May 1st to May 2nd. We'll see each of the trips and reservations during this time frame. If any employees have been assigned, you'll see their name listed over on the right. Once an employee has been assigned to a trip, you can choose to send them an SMS text message as a reminder for their shift, edit their role, or delete them from the trip. I can select the Basalt River rafting trip at 8 a.m. and then click Add Employee to add a role for this trip. I'm going to select our lead guide user. Their role will be the trip leader. I can assign the employee and see their name listed above. Once I have all of my trips assigned, I can choose to email the trip schedule to the employees or send an SMS text message with an overview of the trips. From the period view, you can also select to filter to see reservations. Once you click on a trip, you'll see the operation schedule page open. On this page, you can include operation notes for your guides, and guides can input post-trip notes to keep track of events that may have happened while they're on the river. On this page, you'll see every reservation that is included in this departure time. In this case, we have 4 reservations. If your company uses resources to keep track of specific inventory items, you can assign those by clicking Assign New Resource on the right side. We can assign a new employee by clicking Assign New Employee or Role, and select the employee from the list below. When assigning new employees to a trip, you'll need to have these roles created in advance. If you need to add a new role, you can do so from this page. Select the employee's name and click Add New Role. I can now assign this employee to the trip. Remove employees by selecting the checkbox and clicking Remove Selected Employees. You can choose to send an SMS notification to selected employees. This message will include the trip name, the date, and the departure time. You can type in additional information and choose Send SMS. If you have set up default resources for this activity, you can auto-assign the resources here, as well as auto-assigning the employees. If you'd like to assign both the resources and employees at the same time, select the button above. We've set up this trip to assign raft number 1 and raft number 2, and to assign 2 guides and a van driver. If you'd like to assign specific travelers to your guides, you can select them from the drop-down. You can assign multiples at one time by selecting on the left and then choosing to assign here. You can return to the period view by clicking the button below. The weekly view will show all operations, including trips, rentals, and lodging. If you'd like to see the assigned employees for the trips, you can select Employees from the left-hand side and filter. You'll see that our lead guide user is assigned to the Basalt River rafting trip, and our guide, Dan Camp, is assigned to the other rafting trip. The monthly view will give you an overview of all of your operations for the month. You can choose the Continued box to see trips that span over multiple days. The daily view is best used to see all of the operations occurring for one day in particular. You'll see the results presented by the customer with their reservation, but this page does not include many details. The employee availability page allows you to see each employee's availability. You can also filter by particular employees or operating locations. If you'd like to see only the scheduled trips, you can remove the filters here. As a manager, you can use this page to enter employee availability. Select Add New Availability and fill out the information. If an employee is available for a season, you can select the dates and apply the changes. We can filter to see My Availability. You can also use the Employee Availability page to enter non-trip schedules. For example, I can assign Barney Rubble for a maintenance task on a particular date. I can filter to see all of the scheduled shifts. The rental management screen allows us to keep track of all of our rentals for a particular time period. We've filtered this screen to see May 1st and can see each of the items that will be rented on that day. You can set multiple items as rented out by selecting the checkboxes, clicking the button below. This will move the rental items down below to rental items not returned, or items that are due back. You can select multiple items and return them. To see all of the items, select Show All Rental Status and filter. On the right, you can see that 2 of our items have been returned for the day. The lodging screen allows us to manage all of our lodging reservations. We can see all of our campsites and cabins that have been rented for this time. If a lodging item needs to be reassigned, you can select on the right-hand side to move it to a different space. To check in multiple items, you can select and show the units as occupied. The Lodging In-House section shows all units with guests occupying them. Once a guest checks out, select here and mark it as departed. The check-in screen allows you to manage all reservations. You can check customers in on the right side. You can check in multiple reservations at one time by selecting the checkboxes on the right and checking in all selected reservations. From the reservation check-in screen, you can see the balance due on the reservation and any waivers that have been signed. In this case, only one waiver has been signed for this day. To manage waivers and check in participants individually, select the checkbox under Checked In Quantity. If a customer is unable to sign their waiver ahead of time, you can enter a manual waiver entry. In this case, we've selected Albus Dumbledore, and he can type his name here. Select to update the waiver. Check in participants individually by selecting this box and update the customers. As a manager, you can create and edit employee roles. Select Activity Roles from the Settings page. Create a new activity role by clicking Add New Activity Role. Select the name of the role. If applicable, you can enter a payroll code and select an operating location. The payroll information listed on this page does not apply to every employee. This is best used when adding a new role for a person to know what the general pay rate for that role is. So keep this in mind whenever you're assigning a new user to a role. It's going to auto-populate with the information listed here, but you can always update that information if that user has a different pay rate. To manage the pay rate for a particular employee, you'll want to update that information on the system users. I can enter qualifications and certifications and update their pay as a trip leader. On the System Users page, you can also see employee availability at a glance. If you'd like to require manager approval for availability request, select this box and then choose the manager from the list. You can view the employee's availability calendar here. You can enter new availability information by selecting Add New Event. For the last demonstration, I want to show you what it looks like to log in as an employee. I've logged in as our employee Fenris. When an employee logs in, they can see their schedule in the same views that you can see on the operations page. They have the daily view, weekly view, and monthly view. Here we can see Fenris's scheduled trips. You can expand this view to see the details of the trip. The employee can then see the resource assigned to them. Fenris is assigned to the resource of the high side 13-foot raft. He can also see that he is the main trip leader and is working with Ariel White. Below, he can see each of the travelers on his trip. After the trip, Fenris can enter post-trip notes here. You can see the notes entered down below. If there were any operations notes, these would be detailed down here as well. If your company uses time clocks, you'll see a Clock In button at the top of the screen. Employees can see all timestamps on the Time Clocks page. The Reports page will show all trip manifests that the employee has access to.